The Yahoo Boys by Gabriella Grupp-Cyber of Criminal. Read by Julian Hale. Welcome to our ambitious and insightful audiobook, The Yahoo Boys, written by talented author Gabriella Grupp-Cyber of Criminal. In this gripping narrative, we take you on an in-depth journey into the fascinating and at the same time terrifying world of internet fraud, which is practiced by the so-called Yahoo Boys. In the upcoming chapters, we will explore the sophisticated methods used by these scammers, the emotional and financial impact on their victims, and the societal and legal challenges that come with this phenomenon. They will be affected by personal stories that show the human face behind this fraudulent network and illustrate how profound the impact is on the lives of those affected. But this is just the beginning. Stay tuned for more reports and audiobooks to come in this series. We will offer even deeper insights into the world of cybercrime, analyze new trends, and show effective ways to prevent it. Tune in and let Julian Hale guide you through the dark and fascinating topic. Prepare to be both informed and sensitized as we shed light on a topic that often remains in the shadows. Now, let's start our journey into the world of Yahoo Boys. Introduction. In today's digital world, networking via the internet has brought both opportunities and challenges. As people around the world connect through social media and online platforms, a lucrative and criminal line of business has also emerged: internet fraud. In particular, the so-called Yahoo Boys group has attracted increased attention in recent years and often makes headlines. These young men, who are active in Nigeria and other regions, use the internet to trick unsuspecting victims and secure a lucrative income through fraudulent activities. The Yahoo Boys use a variety of methods to achieve their goals, from romantic scams that exploit feelings to economic scams, which are often carried out in an intimidating or fraudulent way. Their techniques are diverse and constantly evolving to escape the challenges of law enforcement and the increasing security measures on the internet. This social and criminal context raises many questions. What drives these young men to choose the scam? What social, economic, and cultural factors play a role in their actions? And how can victims be protected from these scams? In this book, we will explore these questions in depth. We will take a look at the history of internet fraud, analyze the different types of fraud, shed light on the strategies of the Yahoo Boys, and discuss the impact of their activities on society. We will also look at the legal aspects and the role of technology in the fight against internet fraud. The aim is to develop a comprehensive understanding of this complex phenomenon and to identify possible solutions for prevention. Join us on this exploration journey into the world of the Yahoo Boys and discover the multifaceted reality behind this surprisingly lucrative yet dangerous activity. Chapter 1: Definition of Yahoo Boys and Origin. The Yahoo Boys are a phenomenon that arose from the rise of the internet in Nigeria and other parts of West Africa. At its core, they are young men, mostly between the ages of 18 and 35, who specialize in internet fraud. The term Yahoo Boy is derived from the once popular email platform Yahoo, which was a commonly used tool for scammers to reach their victims in the early 2000s. Origin of the term. The term Yahoo Boy originally had no negative connotations. It became the identification of a specific group of young men who were looking for ways to make a quick buck using the internet. However, over time, these scammers have lost their reputation in the social consciousness as they are associated with various forms of fraud that not only harm people financially but also burden them emotionally and psychologically. The evolution of internet fraud in Nigeria. The roots of internet fraud in Nigeria can be traced back to the early days of the internet, when it provided the first opportunity for many to do business through digital channels. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, many Nigerians, especially young men, took advantage of the anonymity and reach of the internet. It was at this time that the first 419 scams were launched, named after the corresponding article of the Nigerian Penal Code, which criminalizes such scams. These scams often included fake inheritances or fake payments, where the victim was asked to pay fees up front in order to access the supposed money. Cultural and social influences. The culture and society in Nigeria also have a significant influence on the appearance of the Yahoo Boys. In a country where unemployment and poverty are rife, many young people are looking for quick and lucrative ways to make a living and support their families. The influence of Western consumption and the pursuit of material prosperity reinforce this urge. Many Yahoo Boys see their lifestyle as a form of rebellion against the traditional value system, which prioritizes hard work and education over quick money. Moreover, there is some acceptance in Nigerian Christian and Muslim culture for the pursuit of prosperity, even if it is done in an unconventional way. This leads to an ambivalent attitude towards the Yahoo Boys, who experience both admiration and condemnation. The motivation behind action. Ultimately, psychological factors also play a role. Many Yahoo Boys see themselves as part of a community or subculture that values success and wealth. They are often surrounded by role models who make their lifestyle more glamorous and present quick success as desirable. Their motivation can also be boosted by the hope of a better future, which leads them to be willing to take high risks. In this chapter, we've laid the groundwork to better understand the Yahoo Boys. In the next chapter, we will look at the history of internet fraud in detail and examine the development of various scam methods that are in the context of the Yahoo Boys. Chapter 2. History of Internet Fraud. The history of Internet fraud is as old as the Internet itself. From the early days of the World Wide Web to today's complex fraud systems, the landscape of fraud has been constantly changing and evolving. In this chapter, we will take a closer look at the evolution of Internet fraud, starting with the first scams and ending with the sophisticated techniques used today by the Yahoo Boys. The beginnings of Internet fraud. The beginnings of Internet fraud can be traced back to the late 1990s, when the prevalence of email and the accessibility of the Internet increased. At that time, scammers began sending emails, often referred to as 419 scams. These emails usually contained a story informing the victim of a large amount of money resulting from an inheritance or an unjustified payment. The scammers promised the victim a huge sum if they paid a small processing fee or tax in advance. Developments in the digital age. As online banking and e-commerce became more widespread, so did fraud methods. In the early 2000s, phishing became popular, a method in which scammers create fake websites or send fake emails to trick users into revealing their personal information, such as passwords or credit card numbers. These attacks became increasingly sophisticated, with scammers often mimicking deceptive-looking websites to gain the trust of their victims. Specialization and rise of the Yahoo Boys. In Nigeria, the number of internet scams increased dramatically over the years, leading to the formation of specific groups specializing in different types of scams. The Yahoo Boys rose to prominence when they discovered the use of social media such as Facebook and Instagram to target potential victims. These platforms allowed them to create personal stories and build emotional connections with their target audience. They often pretended to be wealthy foreigners living or visiting Nigeria. The role of globalization and technology. Globalization and technological advancements have contributed to the rise of internet fraud. The increasing use of smartphones and fast internet connections has made it easier for fraudsters to expand their activities not only locally but also internationally. The global reach of the internet allows the Yahoo Boys to reach their target audiences in countries such as the United States, Canada, and Europe. In addition, modern means of communication, such as messaging apps and social media, facilitate interaction between scammers and their victims. These technologies have also spawned new forms of fraud, such as romance scams, which involve building emotional bonds to extort money from victims. Adaptation and resistance. Law enforcement agencies have tried to crack down on internet fraud over the years, which has led to constant adaptation by fraudsters. The development of anti-fraud technologies and strategies has challenged the methods of the Yahoo Boys. But the clans and networks are constantly finding new ways to legalize their operations and evade the new challenges. The history of internet fraud shows a constant evolution of methods and techniques used by fraudsters to achieve their goals. These developments report not only on the creativity and ingenuity of human action, but also on the challenges facing society and legislation. In the next chapter, we will explore the different types of scams practiced by the Yahoo Boys and the specific characteristics that each type of scam defines. Chapter 3. Types of fraud. The Yahoo Boys are known for their different methods and strategies to trick their victims and obtain money. This chapter examines in detail the most common types of scams practiced by these internet fraudsters. The categories we'll look at include phishing, romance scams, investment fraud, advance fee fraud, and business email compromise. Each of these scam types has its own characteristics and techniques that are targeted to gain the trust of victims. Phishing. Phishing is one of the oldest and most widespread scams on the internet and is often used by Yahoo Boys. Scammers use emails or fake websites to steal personal information from their victims. The emails often look like they come from trusted companies, such as banks or social networks. Victims are asked to reveal their login credentials or other sensitive information. This type of scam is particularly dangerous because it often goes unnoticed until the victim realizes that their account has been emptied or misused. Phishing can also take the form of SMS or social media, with scammers using various communication channels to achieve their goals. Romance scams. Romance scams are another common strategy used by Yahoo Boys. In this method, the scammers pretend to be romantic partners and approach their victims through dating platforms or social media. They build an emotional connection over weeks or months, convincing their victims to send money to deal with supposed emergencies, such as medical expenses or transportation costs. This scam is not only financially devastating, but also has a significant emotional impact on the victims, who often feel that they have established a real relationship. The psychological pressure and shame associated with such a scam make it difficult for victims to seek help or open up to others. Investment fraud. Investment scams are another method that Yahoo Boys use to trick unsuspecting victims. The scammers present fake business opportunities or investment plans, often with promised high returns. These offers seem tempting and often too good to be true. The scammers often use fake documents to back up their offers, creating an atmosphere of urgency where victims believe they need to act quickly to avoid missing out on the opportunity of a lifetime. Usually, if victims have invested money, the scammer will disappear with the funds without any actual investment ever having taken place. Advance fee fraud. Advance fee fraud is a specific form of fraud that requires the victim to pay a fee up front to gain access to a promised prize. This form of fraud has its origins in the famous 419 scams, where the scammers pretend to be members of the Nigerian government or wealthy individuals who are stuck abroad and need assistance. The scammers promise the victim large sums of money if they first transfer a small fee. This scam is particularly perfidious because it often makes victims feel like they have a chance of financial gain when in reality, they are being taken advantage of. Many people lose large sums of money before realizing that they have been scammed. Business email trade-offs, BEC. Business email compromise, BEC, is a sophisticated scam method that targets businesses specifically. This involves manipulating email communication between employees or between a company and its business partners. Scammers posing as trusted contacts can trick companies into revealing confidential information or transferring money. The fraudsters often use social engineering to gain the trust of the targets, and can operate successfully by gathering information about company structures and contact details. This type of fraud not only entails financial losses, but can also cause significant damage to a company's reputation. The different types of scams practiced by the Yahoo Boys show the variety and complexity of the methods that cybercriminals use to achieve their goals. The impact of these scams is far-reaching and affects not only the direct victims but also society as a whole. In the next chapter, we will take a closer look at the strategies of the Yahoo Boys and find out how they manage to successfully manipulate and trick their victims. Chapter 4: The Yahoo Boys Strategy. The Yahoo Boys have developed a variety of strategies and techniques over the years to identify, contact, and scam their victims. At the heart of her actions is a deep understanding of psychological manipulation and the use of modern technologies. In this chapter, we will explore the different strategies that Yahoo Boys use to successfully convince young people, often from the West, of their money. Target group selection. One of the first strategies of the Yahoo Boys is the careful selection of their target group. They often focus on people who are emotionally vulnerable or in financial difficulties, often older people or single people who are looking for emotional connection. The scammers use social media, online dating platforms, and chats to identify potential victims. The consideration of age groups and social backgrounds allows the Yahoo Boys to plan their attacks in a targeted manner and adapt their approaches accordingly. Building trust. Building trust is a central part of the Yahoo Boys strategy. Once a potential victim is identified, the scammer begins to build a relationship. This is often done by sharing personal stories that seem human and relatable. The scammer may impersonate someone who is working or studying abroad to create a connection. In addition, many Yahoo Boys use images of fake profiles of models or attractive people to appear more appealing. As they form an emotional bond, they manipulate their victims' perceptions so that they believe they have a special relationship with a trusted partner. Exploitation of urgency and emotional blackmail. Another crucial element in the strategy of the Yahoo Boys is the creation of urgency. The scammers often invent urgent issues that require immediate financial assistance from the victim. This can come in the form of medical emergencies, financial difficulties, or other personal crisis scenarios. This tactic of emotional blackmail uses the message that the victim is the only hope for the fraudster. This manipulative technique pushes the victim to act impulsively and send money without first carefully checking whether it is a scam. Technological capabilities. The technological capabilities of the Yahoo Boys are another key factor in their success. Many of them are well versed in computer technology and social media. They use anonymization tools, VPNs, and fake emails to cover their tracks and protect their identities. In addition, they also employ tools to effectively manage their scammer accounts while targeting multiple victims at once. The ability to use multiple communication channels and respond quickly to inquiries gives them a distinct advantage. Network and community. The Yahoo Boys often operate in networks or groups that support each other and learn from each other. This community allows for the exchange of resources, know-how, and tactics, which further increases their efficiency. They often meet in online forums or social networks, where they discuss their experiences and work out competitive strategies. This collaborative component ensures that Yahoo Boys stay on top of what's happening in the fraud landscape and can quickly adapt to new methods or technologies. The strategies of the Yahoo Boys are a perfect interplay of psychological techniques and technological sophistication. Building trust, leveraging urgency, and effectively using modern communication tools are crucial elements that allow them to successfully execute their scams. In the next chapter, we will look at the societal impact of the activities of the Yahoo Boys and examine the stigma and perception of these scammers in society. Chapter 5: Societal Perception. The activities of the Yahoo Boys not only have an impact on the direct victims of their scams, but also influence the social image of Nigeria and the perception of its youth. In this chapter, we will explore the different facets of the societal perception of the Yahoo Boys, the stigmatization they experience, as well as the ambivalence in the view of their actions within Nigerian society. Stigma and stereotypes. The stigma of the Yahoo Boys has increased in Nigerian society, mainly due to the negative media coverage that is often associated with their activities. The reports of fraud and the heavy financial losses of the victims demand an image of the Yahoo Boys as social pests that affect Nigeria's reputation in the international context. The prevailing stereotype that all young men in Nigeria are potentially Yahoo Boys contributes to stigmatization and reinforces negative prejudices against Nigerian youth at home and abroad. These stereotypes can hinder career opportunities and social interactions, as people tend to be cautious or suspicious when interacting with young Nigerians. Admiration for the quick success. At the same time, there is an ambivalent attitude towards the Yahoo Boys within Nigerian society. Despite legislative efforts to combat internet fraud, there is some admiration for the supposed quick success and luxurious lifestyle that many of them flaunt. In a society that is strongly influenced by material values, success is often placed above the ethical aspect. Some young people see the lifestyle of the Yahoo Boys as desirable and are willing to accept the risks and social stigma in order to get rich quickly. This perception leads to the fact that a certain part of the youth is tempted to take similar illegal paths in the hope of escaping poverty. The impact on Nigerian society. The activities of the Yahoo Boys have far-reaching social consequences that go beyond the individual level. Nigeria has developed a reputation for internet fraud around the world, resulting in legitimate Nigerian businesses and citizens engaged in international trade often experiencing prejudice and distrust. This has a negative impact on the country's economy and hinders investment and business relations abroad. In addition, internet fraud fosters a general sense of insecurity and mistrust in society. Citizens who are aware that scammers may be among them often feel a sense of vulnerability and distrust of others, especially strangers. Nigeria's reputation in the international context. Nigeria's reputation as a hub for internet fraud also has political consequences. The government has repeatedly taken measures to combat fraud, but the challenges are enormous. The negative reporting and the associated stigmatization influence not only the international community's view of Nigeria, but also the willingness to cooperate in economic and military matters. Cases of fraud can strain diplomatic relations and undermine efforts to promote trade and investment. The Nigerian authorities face the challenge of ridding the country of negative stereotypes while curbing crime. The social perception of the Yahoo Boys is complex and multifaceted. While on the one hand there is stigmatization and negativity, on the other hand there is an admiring attitude towards their supposed success. The gap between these perspectives shows how deeply rooted the problems are and how they affect both the individual and societal levels. In the next chapter, we will take a closer look at the legal aspects and the measures taken against internet fraud and examine the challenges of combating this phenomenon in Nigeria and internationally. Chapter 6: Legal Aspects. Tackling cyberfraud, particularly by the Yahoo Boys, is a significant challenge for Nigeria and other countries. Despite extensive legal frameworks and international cooperation, law enforcement authorities face numerous obstacles. In this chapter, we will shed light on the legal aspects of internet fraud, the actions taken by the Nigerian government, as well as international efforts to combat this crime. Legal framework in Nigeria. There are several laws in Nigeria that criminalize internet fraud and related crimes. One of the most well-known laws is the Cybercrimes, Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Act of 2015, which aims to combat cybercrime and ensure the protection of data. This law allows law enforcement agencies to investigate and file a complaint when cybercrimes are committed. In addition, the provisions of the Nigerian Penal Code are also relevant, especially Article 419, which defines advance fee fraud. This law criminalizes acts of fraud aimed at withholding payments. However, in practice, there are often difficulties in implementing these laws due to corruption, limited resources, and a lack of legal support. Challenges of law enforcement. The fight against internet fraud in Nigeria is complicated by several factors. Corruption is a significant problem that affects the work of law enforcement agencies and undermines public trust in institutions. It is common for cases of fraud not to be adequately prosecuted, or for charges due to bribery or political pressure to be dropped. Another factor that makes law enforcement more difficult is the anonymity of the internet. Many scammers use technologies such as VPNs or fake identities to cover their tracks and hide their real whereabouts. The novelty and complexity of fraud methods make it difficult for the authorities to keep pace with the rapid development. International cooperations. International cooperation is essential to combat internet fraud more effectively. In recent years, Nigeria has increased its cooperation with international organizations such as the FBI, Interpol, and various European law enforcement agencies to share information and conduct joint investigations. This cooperation has helped to catch some fraudsters operating in other countries and has created the possibility of investigating across borders. Nevertheless, the exchange of sound knowledge and the involvement of all institutions concerned remains a challenge, as different countries have different legal standards and procedures. Preventive measures and public relations. In addition to law enforcement, preventive measures are crucial. The Nigerian government and various NGOs are working to raise awareness about internet fraud and educate the public about security practices. Awareness campaigns aimed at young people provide important information on how to recognize and avoid fraud. In addition, workshops and training courses are offered for companies and organizations to educate them about cybersecurity and protection against internet fraud. Spreading information and creating higher awareness are crucial to reducing the number of victims and increasing the pressure on the scammers. Chapter 7: The personal stories of the victims. The impact of internet fraud, especially by the Yahoo Boys, is not just financial. The victims' stories are often marked by emotional and psychological consequences that significantly affect their lives. In this chapter, we will look at some of these personal stories to gain insight into the suffering and challenges faced by victims of fraud. These reports help to identify the human face behind the statistics and highlight the far-reaching consequences of such crimes. Emotional shock and loss of trust. A common experience among victims is emotional shock, which is often followed by a deep loss of trust in other people. A woman we call Anna was in her 50s and was looking for a romantic connection on a dating platform. After months of communicating with a man posing as a U.S. soldier abroad, she trusted him more and more and began sending money to help his alleged financial difficulties. When she finally found out that she had been cheated on, the shock was great. Anna reported that she had not only lost her money, but also her confidence in her ability to assess other people. The emotional wound led to anxiety and depression, and she found it hard to form new relationships or even maintain old friendships. Psychological effects. The psychological impact of internet fraud can be devastating. Another example is Marcus, a young man who was involved in an investment scam. He had invested a large part of his savings in the hope of high returns. When it turned out that the entire project was a fake, Marcus was financially devastated. His story was marked by shame and guilt, as he accused himself of being so gullible. The psychological consequences were severe, and he struggled with self-doubt and a loss of self-esteem. Months later, Marcus reported that he was struggling to cope with his everyday life and was afraid of further financial decisions. Social isolation. Victims of internet scams often report social isolation resulting from shame and fear. The experiences of the scammers affect not only the financial security of the victims, but also the social ties they had. Another victim, whom we call Lisa, lost not only money after her scam, but also the support of her friends after she decided to tell her story. She felt misunderstood and stigmatized by her social environment. The fear of being seen as a victim led her to withdraw more and more. Lisa struggled with loneliness and the fear of talking about her experiences. Ethical and stigma issues had a negative impact on their well-being and led to deep sadness. The search for support. Despite the pain and challenges, there are more and more initiatives and support groups that help victims of internet fraud. Many sufferers are looking for ways to share their experiences and support each other. Groups are formed in which the victims come together to share their stories and find ways to heal. These communities provide not only emotional support, but also practical support to counteract the legal and financial losses. Some victims learn through their participation in these groups that they are not alone and that there is hope for healing. The personal stories of the victims show that the impact of internet fraud goes far beyond financial losses. Emotional injuries, psychological problems, and social isolation are some of the serious consequences that sufferers face. It is important to recognize the human face behind the statistics and reports in order to raise awareness of this phenomenon and provide victims with the support they need. In the next chapter, we'll look at cyber fraud prevention measures and discuss how individuals and communities can protect themselves. The legal aspects of combating internet fraud in Nigeria are complex and challenging. While there are laws and international cooperation, there are also significant obstacles that make it difficult to implement and enforce these measures. Effectively addressing the challenges of cyber fraud requires a holistic approach that includes both legal and preventive measures. In the next chapter, we'll look at the personal stories and experiences of Yahoo scam victims, and the psychological impact that this scam has on those affected. Chapter 8. Prevention of Internet Fraud. The prevention of internet fraud plays a crucial role in the fight against the activities of the Yahoo Boys. As the methods of these scammers are constantly evolving, it is imperative that individuals and communities develop comprehensive strategies to protect themselves. In this chapter, we will explore different approaches to prevention, ranging from personal education to technological measures and societal initiatives. Education and awareness raising. One of the best ways to prevent internet fraud is to raise awareness in society. Education plays a key role in helping people recognize the signs of fraud and identify warning signals early on. Schools, universities, and nonprofits should conduct information campaigns that focus on issues such as internet fraud. Workshops, seminars, and online webinars can help to increase knowledge about fraudulent practices. For example, participants should learn how to communicate securely on social media, recognize suspicious emails, and understand the importance of strong passwords. Strengthening digital literacy is crucial to minimize the risk of fraud. Safe online behavior. In addition to educating people about internet fraud, individuals should also be made aware of how to behave safely online. Best practices include a strong password management. Use complex passwords that combine numbers, letters, and symbols. Use password managers to securely store passwords and update them regularly. Beware of emails. Be skeptical of unsolicited emails, especially those that contain personal information, questions, or links to suspicious websites. A phishing education. Learn to recognize phishing attempts and report suspicious messages immediately. A use of two-factor authentication. Enable two-factor authentication where possible to add an extra layer of security. Technological solutions. Technology can also play a crucial role in preventing internet fraud. Various software solutions can help create a safe online environment. Antivirus and anti-malware software, These programs can detect and isolate malicious software that can be used by fraudsters to access personal information. Security apps. Some applications help users detect fraud and provide alerts when potential threats are detected. VPN services. Using a virtual private network, VPN, can mask online activity and increase protection while browsing the Internet. Community initiatives. Effectively combating Internet fraud requires a community commitment. Local communities should organize awareness-raising and prevention programs by conducting lectures with experts and creating platforms to share information. Cooperation between trade unions, companies, and NGOs can help to form a networked front against fraudsters. Neighborhood initiatives, where members share information about suspicious activity, can also help create a safer environment. The role of government. Finally, the state also plays an important role in the prevention of Internet fraud. Governments should develop clear laws and guidelines that punish cybercrime more severely. In addition, allocating resources to law enforcement is crucial to increase capacity to combat online fraud. Awareness campaigns initiated by governments can raise awareness among the general public and encourage people to report suspicious activity. Preventing cyber fraud requires the collaboration of all societal actors, including individuals, communities, and governments. Education, technological advancements, and community initiatives can reduce risk and raise awareness. At a time when the digital world is becoming increasingly important, it is essential to take proactive measures to protect yourself and others from the far-reaching consequences of Internet fraud. In the next chapter, we will provide an outlook on future developments in the field of Internet fraud and the challenges that await us. Chapter 9: Outlook on the Future of Internet Fraud. The landscape of Internet fraud has changed dramatically over the years and will continue to be characterized by constant change in the future. Technological advancements, changes in society, and growing globalization all affect the methods and strategies that scammers employ. In this chapter, we take a look at the predicted trends and challenges in the field of Internet fraud, as well as how individuals, businesses, and governments can prepare for it. Increasing complexity of fraud methods. The methods of the Yahoo Boys and other Internet fraudsters are expected to become more and more complex and sophisticated. For example, as technology advances, fraudsters could use artificial intelligence and machine learning to carry out personalized attacks and better analyze the vulnerability of their victims. AI can help collect data from social media to create targeted phishing messages that are all the more compelling. Use deepfakes to create fake videos or audio recordings that can inspire real trust. This could be used in romance scams or corporate impersonation, making it easier for fraudsters to gain access to sensitive information. Rise in online fraud in new technologies. The development of new technologies creates new opportunities for fraudsters. For example, there are already indications that new types of fraud are emerging with the introduction of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. Scammers could try to promote fake investments in cryptocurrencies or ICOs, initial coin offerings, or create wallets to steal money. In addition, trends such as the Internet of Things, IoT, could create new attack vectors. When everyday devices are connected, vulnerabilities can be exploited to gain access to personal data or even manipulate physical devices. Globalization of threats. Globalization will also influence the way Internet fraud is perceived and combated. Fraudsters will not only cross local or national borders, but will also increasingly cooperate intercontinentally, making the fight against Internet fraud even more complex. This required increased international cooperation and coordination between law enforcement agencies to address the challenges posed by cross-border crime. The influence of legislation. Future developments in the field of Internet fraud will also depend heavily on the legal framework. Governments must ensure that they have adaptive legal tools in place to respond effectively to new fraud schemes. This means expanding cybercrime laws to reflect changing technologies and fraud methods. Public education and training of law enforcement authorities on new technologies and the risks involved. The role of companies. Companies must also take proactive measures to protect themselves against Internet fraud. Security measures should be embedded in the company culture, and employee training is essential to raise awareness of cyber risks. These include regular training to raise awareness about phishing and other types of fraud. Implement robust security protocols across the organization. Long-term impact on society. The ongoing threat of internet fraud has long-term implications for society. Trust in online banking, e-commerce, and digital communication could be affected in the long term, which could lead to a decrease in the use of these services. To combat this, technology providers, companies, and governments must work closely together to strengthen security infrastructure and restore user trust in digital platforms. The future of internet fraud is fraught with uncertainty, but also with opportunities for innovation and collaboration. To effectively arm themselves against the growing threats, individuals, companies, and governments must take proactive steps to adapt knowledge, technology, and legislation. Only through joint efforts can a safer digital future be created for all. In the last chapter, we will summarize all the findings and highlight the essential points to consider when dealing with internet fraud. Chapter 10: Summary and Conclusions. In the previous chapters, we have comprehensively examined the issue of internet fraud by the Yahoo Boys, including their fraudulent methods, social perception, legal aspects, personal stories of victims, and the necessary prevention measures and future developments. This summary will highlight the key points and findings, and draw the conclusions that can be drawn from our investigation. Insights into the methods of the Yahoo Boys. The Yahoo Boys use a variety of techniques to scam their victims, including phishing, romance scams, investment fraud, and advance fee fraud. Their success is based on building trust and exploiting emotional vulnerabilities. The complexity and sophistication of their methods are increasing as technology advances, making it increasingly difficult for victims to detect fraud and respond in a timely manner. Societal impact. The activities of the Yahoo Boys have both direct and indirect social impacts. Affected individuals experience not only financial losses, but also severe emotional and psychological consequences that affect their social relationships and overall well-being. At the same time, Nigerian society and its youth are under the pressure of stigmatization, which affects their reputation and opportunities in a globalized world. Legal framework and challenges. Although there is a legal framework in Nigeria that criminalizes internet fraud, law enforcement agencies face significant challenges. Corruption, the anonymity of the internet, and limited resources make it difficult to implement and enforce the laws. International cooperation is of crucial importance in order to effectively counter fraudulent activities across borders. Prevention as the key. Prevention is crucial in the fight against internet fraud. Educational initiatives must be promoted to raise awareness of scams. Individuals should be informed about safe online behavior, while technological solutions need to be implemented to increase security protection. Community-oriented initiatives and government support are essential to develop an effective prevention strategy. Future challenges. The future of internet fraud will be characterized by increasing complexity and the use of new technologies, such as artificial intelligence and blockchain. Increased globalization means that fraudsters will operate internationally, further increasing the challenges for law enforcement and national legislators. To address these threats, it is important that all stakeholders, from individuals to governments and businesses, work together and continuously adapt their strategies. Inference. The fight against cyber fraud is an urgent and complex challenge that requires everyone's commitment and collaboration. Through understanding, prevention, and international cooperation, we can develop a more effective response to the threats posed by fraudsters. This work has not only shed light on the mechanics and impact of Yahoo Boys fraud, but has also highlighted the ways we can all contribute to creating a safer digital environment. It's time to take action to protect ourselves and others from the risk of internet fraud and foster an informed, responsible online community. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our audiobook, The Yahoo Boys. Your attention and interest in this important issue is crucial to raising awareness of internet fraud and supporting each other. We hope that the information and stories you have heard have given you valuable insights and promoted your understanding of the risks in the digital space. To stay informed about this topic and support prevention measures, we invite you to share the accompanying video on internet fraud prevention. Please subscribe to our channel, because there will be many more exciting and insightful audiobooks to follow that deal with the challenges and developments in the field of cybercrime. We also look forward to your comments. Share your thoughts, experiences, or questions with us. Your feedback is important to us and helps us to tailor future content even better to your needs. Until next time, stay safe and informed.